All right, let's talk about JEPI versus SCHD. If you're an income investor, you've almost definitely wrestled with this one. They both pay you, but they are designed to solve two completely different financial problems. One's all about getting paid today, the other is about getting a raise tomorrow. You know, when you really get down to it, the choice between these two massive ETFs, it all comes down to this one single question. Do you need the biggest paycheck you can get your hands on right now? Or are you trying to build an income stream that's going to be even bigger in the future?
So yeah, they both offer income, but you absolutely cannot treat them like they're the same thing. They're not interchangeable. As you can see, one is built for today and the other is built for tomorrow. Understanding how they get there is really the key to figuring out which one, if any, is right for you.
All right, first up, let's dive into JEPI. This is the one you always hear about when the goal is simple: get a big, fat monthly check, like right now. Look, JEPI has one job, and one job only: to generate a high monthly paycheck for you. It's actively managed, which means there's a team of people behind the curtain pulling levers to make that happen. But how do they actually do it? Where does that big yield come from? Okay, so the secret sauce here, the engine that powers JPI's high yield, is something called a covered call. The analogy on the slide is actually perfect. Think about it like this. You own a house, right? You can rent out the attic. You get that steady rent check every month. That's your income. But by renting it out, you've basically agreed that you're not going to build a second story up there. You've given up that potential for big future growth in exchange for more cash in your pocket today. That's the trade. That's the whole deal right there. So how does this actually work in the fund? Well, it's a two-part system. First, the managers buy a bunch of stocks. They aim for defensive, less volatile companies. These stocks pay dividends, and that's your first slice of income. But here's the real kicker. Step 2. They sell those covered call options on the S&P 500. The cash they get for selling those options, that's called the premium, is the second and usually much, much larger source of income. So who is this really built for? Well, it's pretty clear. It's for anyone who's in what we call the distribution phase of their life. You know, think retirees who are now living off their investments, or really anyone who needs to squeeze the most income possible out of their portfolio right this second to pay the bills. And this is where you see that trade-off we talked about. By selling those options, JPI basically puts a lid on its potential gains. If the market just goes on an absolute tear, you're not going to catch all of that upside. You've made a very clear choice. You've traded that possibility for a bigger paycheck today. Okay, now let's completely switch gears and talk about SCHD, because it's playing a totally different game. If JEPI is all about harvesting the fruit that's ripe today, SCHD is about planting a tiny seed that over time grows into this massive tree that just produces more and more fruit every single year. And you feel the difference right away. SCHD is a passive fund. There's no manager making active bets. It just follows a simple set of rules. And its goal isn't to get the biggest yield today. Nope. Its goal is to find awesome companies that can reliably grow their dividend payments year in and year out. And the way it works is beautifully simple. It just looks for companies with strong financials, a solid history of paying dividends, and, this is the most important part, a track record of growing those dividends. And the key difference? No options. None. All of your income comes from one place: the dividends paid by the quality companies inside the fund. This quote right here, it really nails the entire philosophy behind SCHD. Think about it. A company that can afford to give its shareholders a raise every single year is probably a pretty healthy, growing business, right? A super high yield that never goes up, well, that can sometimes be a warning sign. SCHD is betting on that growth. So who's the perfect fit for this strategy? It's the investor who's playing the long game, someone who's still building their wealth, in that accumulation phase, and they want an income stream that doesn't just stay flat, but actually grows, hopefully faster than inflation. The focus here is on total return. That's the dividends you get, plus the growth of the fund's price. All right, so we've seen both playbooks. Let's put them side by side and really see the difference. And this chart just lays it all out, plain and simple. With JPI, you've got an active strategy using options to juice your income right now, but you know your upside is capped. With SCHD, you've got a dead simple passive strategy that's all about dividend growth, which means your upside is totally uncapped. They are truly different engines built for totally different road trips. So let's bring back those metaphors, because they really work. JPII is like that monthly paycheck. It's dependable, it shows up, and you can use it to pay your bills today. SCHD? That's like planting an income tree. At first, the harvest is kind of small, But you give it time, you're patient, and that tree gets bigger and stronger, and eventually it's producing a way bigger harvest for you down the road. So, this brings us to the big one, right? The question everyone wants to know. After all this, which one's better? Which one should you pick?
And the answer is, it's the wrong question. It's not about which one is better. That's a myth. There is no better fund here, because honestly, they're not even competing for the same job. The right one for you depends 100% on what you're trying to do with your money.
Think of it like this. You have a toolbox. You wouldn't argue that a hammer is better than a screwdriver, would you? Of course not. They're different tools for different jobs. If your job right now is to generate as much cash flow as possible, JPI is the power tool designed specifically for that. But if your job is to build a growing stream of income for the future, well, SCHD is the tool you grab for that. They solve different problems. And hey, some people even use both. So, if you remember one thing from all this, let it be this. Successful income investing isn't about chasing the highest possible yield. It's about finding the strategy that perfectly aligns with your personal goals.
And that's why I'll leave you with this final thought. Before you even think about typing in a ticker symbol, just stop and ask yourself one simple question. What financial problem am I really trying to solve? Once you have the answer to that, you'll know exactly which tool to reach for.